According to the story of the film, a ghostly face killer has returned to the city. A young woman, Tara, is introduced at the beginning of the movie. She was talking to her friend Amber while working in the kitchen. There is a call on the landline and the man at the other end wants to talk to Tara's friend Amber. Tara says Amber isn't at home right now. The man scares Tara and says just imagine a girl is alone at home. And a man asks her to play the game with him while calling her. Tara gets panicked hearing this and the man tells Tara about a movie. In that movie, the killer calls the people like this and plays games with them. Now, this is happening to Tara and she gets panicked. She turns on the security lock of her house. The man on the call talking to Tara sends Amber's video. He sends a video of her friend and asks her to play a game with him. He says, I will ask you 3 questions. If you will answer any question wrong, I will end your friend. It means the phone of Tara's friend was used by someone else. Tara was ready to play the game to save her friend. And gives 2 answers correctly, but when the killer asks the 3rd question she answers it wrong. The man on the call talking to Tara says there are 2 killers in every movie. And tells the name of the killer. He ends the call while saying now your friend will die. Tara calls the police and runs to open her door. As she opens the door, the ghost face killer attacks her. He attacks Tara while coming inside the house. He stabs Tara with his knife. Meanwhile, the police arrive but the killer escapes. Tara's sister is shown who is with her friend. She lived in another city and now talking to her friend. Knowing about the attack on her sister, she leaves for her hometown with her friend. Later, some friends of Tara are shown talking about her attack. A boy is shown who is stalking a girl from their group. He waves her a hand. They move to the hospital for Tara. Tara's sister is shown who is on the way with her friend. She was telling her friend about her city and the ghost face killer as well. Because there was an attack on her sister like those movies. Tara's sister reaches the hospital and meets her friends. She meets her friend who has given her information about Tara. He was the son of the deputy officer. She meets the other friends of Tara and there were twin siblings in Tara's friends. She meets her best friend Amber. Amber was the girl whose video was shared by the killer to Tara. They go out of the room because Tara wants to meet her sister alone. Tara tells her sister while weeping the ghost face killer has returned to this city. Now he will end us. Later, the scene shifts and a club is shown. Tara's friends were there and one of their friends gets into a fight with a man. He was the man who was waving his hand while standing near his car. That man got into a fight so he comes out of the club. As he moves out of the club, a man turns on the headlights of his car behind him. He goes near the car but there wasn't anyone inside. Meanwhile, the ghost face killer comes from behind and ends him while stabbing him. Tara's sister is shown who is with Tara in the hospital. She was sleeping with Tara but she awake and finds her friend. He was watching the old movie and wanted to know about the killer. Tara's sister comes to the cafeteria for purchasing her medicine. Meanwhile, she sees an image of a man in the mirror. The man asks her to tell the secret and says tell her secret to Tara. Suddenly, Tara's sister receives a call from the killer. She picks up the call and talks to the killer while saying, if you have the courage, come in front of me. The killer opens the door and attacks her from behind. Tara's sister somehow escapes from the killer and runs to the reception of the hospital. She finds a police officer there. And sends the police officer to the cafeteria but he finds none there. On the other hand, the deputy officer was investigating Tara's friends. She asks Amber some questions. Because Tara gets a call from Amber's phone but she tells that she has forgotten her phone here. The deputy officer summons Tara's sister and informs you have caused numerous problems in this city. Now I don't want any problem because of your family and ask her to stay away from her son. Tara's sister goes to her and tells her the secret of her family. She tells her mother was in a relationship with 2 boys in her college days. One was their father and the other was the man she saw in the mirror. He was a killer. Tara's sister discovers from her mother's diary she is the daughter of the man whom she saw. She tells her father has heard this when I was asking this from her mother. That's why he left her. Because our mother has cheated on our father. Tara becomes angry with her sister after hearing this secret. She asks her to leave the room and Tara's sister meets her friend leaving the room. He has heard their conversation. He makes her friend understand there isn't your mistake. None was helping them, so Tara's sister takes her friend to the old officer of this city. The old officer of the city also refuses to help them. When they leave, he calls his friend Sydney. She was an old survivor. A ghost face killer has come to this city after 25 years and he has come BQs. He wants to end Sydney. The officer tells her about the new killer in the city. He asks her to take care of her. Later, the officer calls his friend. She was now a news anchor and the officer realizes his past. He gets ready to help Tara's friend. Tara's friend arrives at Tara's twin siblings' friend's house, accompanied by the old officer. Tara's friends were there and Tara's sister tell this secret to everyone. They talk about the murders happening in the city. They talk about the murders are happening like in that movie. Maybe the killer is doing this because he wants to make a sequel to this movie. Everyone was speculating on who the murderer was. One of their friends says the killer is often the person about whom none thinks or suspects. And they all suspect Tara's sister. Tara's sister leaves while taking her car being angry. She again sees that man's image while driving the car. The man says, "You can't run like this." Tara's sister decides to stop. The deputy officer is shown in her kitchen and someone knocks at the door. She goes to check the door while holding a knife. She finds her son there. And he goes for taking a shower after saying her to relax. She also goes out to complete her tasks and receives a phone call from the killer on the way. He says, "I am going to end your son at your home." Her mother calls the police being panicked. Later, she returns to her home. She was calling her son but he was busy taking shower. She reaches and runs towards her home. But the killer ends her on the way while stabbing her. Her son notices after taking a shower the door was open. He might not have closed it. Before he could understand anything, the police have surrounded the deputy officer's home. Tara's sister reaches there with the old officer of the city and discovers the killer has ended them. The old officer of the city meets his friend who is a news anchor. They met after 5 years. Tara's sister calls her friend and tells him the killer has ended the deputy officer and her son. Tara's sister sees the officer who was placed as a guardian of Tara in the hospital. She scolds the officer why he has come here while leaving Tara alone. She hurriedly leaves for the hospital with the old officer. Tara was also feeling in the hospital like there is someone around her. She was leaving on the wheelchair from there. But the light of the hospital was gone. Reaching out of the room, Tara finds a dead body of an officer and she hides after seeing it. She starts calling the police. Someone comes toward Tara and she attacks that person without seeing him. He wasn't any killer but a friend of Tara's sister who comes to save Tara, as his friend said. Before they understand the situation, the killer arrives there. He attacks and makes them injured. Meanwhile, Tara's sister calls her friend.